control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all connected but separated, misunderstood and so frustrated. A million armies of one have invaded, watching you and watching me. We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. The little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. We the people have taken over. We the people are little brother, standing by to dethrone each other, watching you and watching me. Paranoid, the lens is our weapon, desensitized in our lust for attention, democratized by our voyeur obsessions, watching you and watching me. Slaves to perfection, don't let them project you as you are. Feel your every flaw. I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye, we're the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
let your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along for the ride, wherever you are on this planet we call Earth. We are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, broadcasting right out of the Great White North, live on this Monday night, early Tuesday morning if you are on the East Coast. Let's welcome everyone in, listening in on spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio, as we do this thing every night of the week, and we rock you in and out of every show, thanks to the guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. Bumblefoot is the official sound of SOR. You can follow me on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn, download our show from iTunes, and of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you can hang out, check some really cool stuff out, and we'll get into that a little bit more. If you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign into one of our chat rooms on Revolution Radio, on Spreaker, and on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you haven't signed up for the SOR Space Travelers Club, what are you waiting for? Shame on you for not doing so. No, just kidding. But the main thing is, it's only $5 a month, and with that, your name gets entered into monthly prize draws. You get access to private group interviews, access to a special section on our website, and so much more. Hey, we're going to give you a hell of a lot more than just access to our archives. While on our website, you can read up on the latest blogs, check out Eric Markham's SOR Space Wire for your latest and weird news, and if you've had an experience you can't explain, fill out the SOR Sightlines report. Our researcher, Mike Schmidt, is ready to find out what's going on. All your personal information is 100% confidential. We want to say hi, how are you to everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM down in New Orleans, and their listeners from over 160 countries around the world. You notice I put the periods in there. That sounded fun. That sounded fun to me. Anyways, remember, if you are listening in on Revolution Radio, it is the largest nonprofit online radio station going today. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. We're getting ghostly tonight on Spaced Out Radio, as it's the third Monday of the month, which means it's time for the crew from Chronicles of the Unknown, along with Amber Avalone from the Paranormal Healing Project, to get into some sweet paranormal talk to kick off this week. The paranormal, as you know, if you're involved, is a fickle genre. How you say? Well, we have paradrama, people who want para-unity. We have researchers and the wannabe scientists. Then we have the evidence hoarders and those who feel that if this research was to receive any credence whatsoever, that evidence should be gathered and shared. In other words, we're either looking at organized chaos or we're spread out so thin that there's no getting together to figure out what the truth is going on really out there. And then we wonder why the mainstream people and scientists don't take this field seriously or with a very fine grain of salt. Tonight we have Mike Morin and Derrick Whiteskycloud from Chronicles of the Unknown. Amber Avalone from the Paranormal Healing Project. We bring in the team for a little paranormal chatter tonight. How are we all doing, team?
Fantastic.
We're
Doing
good.
great.
I'm good.
Excellent. I have to tell you guys what I did this weekend. Up here in my neck of the woods, there is a museum called the 108 Mile Heritage Site. And the longtime caretaker of the heritage site, his name is Ken Long. He passed away in September.
Yeah.
And of pneumonia. And Ken had no family in Canada. All his children lived in his native South Africa. And so we decided, in order to raise some money for him, to get his body back to South Africa, we actually did a charity ghost hunt over the weekend. And I had about 8 to 10 days to prep this thing. We had 47 people from the community show up just on flyers alone that I put up around town. And from a couple pieces on the radio and one in the newspaper, 47 people showed up at $20 a piece. Well, we made over $900 to go towards the cause this weekend.
Wow.
I'm pretty happy about that. I'm pretty happy about that because I didn't expect that much. And neither did the Heritage Site Committee. So that's going to go to a good cause. And the best part about it was everybody had experiences. Everybody. We split them up into 3 groups. I took one group. We had Jim Kolesnik from Vancouver Supernatural up, and he took another group. And James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend, if you were wondering where he was on Saturday, well, he was hanging out with me doing this ghost hunt. And we literally, and James is not only from Spaced Out Weekend, but the Canadian Paranormal Society as well, out of Vancouver, which Mike is a part of. Anyways, we all got together. We took them about 15, 16 people apiece. We worked out of 3 buildings. They have what they call the post house, which is very haunted. They have the Clydesdale barn, which literally... Oh, hi. Hold on. My son just came into the room here.
Aw, hi, son.
Hi, buddy. Sorry, I'm just going to... He's just so damn cute. I'm just going to admire him. 1 second. Can Daddy have a kiss? Good night? Mwah. I love you. Anyway, sorry, I had to play the dad moment there for a moment. Anyhow,
Definitely.
So we literally ended up having 3 buildings. There's the Clydesdale barn, the post house, and the main house. Now, Mike, you've been there. You know exactly where we're talking about. Same as you, Derrick, and you picked up a lot of spirits around that area. But the spirits were so active. And I have to tell you, in the main house, and Mike and Derrick, you'll know where I'm talking about here, and anybody who's been to the 108 will know where I'm talking about. In the main house, on the main floor, they have like this man room and then this ladies' lounge downstairs. In the ladies' lounge, it was so active in there. All I had with me was my K2 EMF detector. I put that right in the middle of the floor. And the little girl, who's usually, her bedroom is upstairs, she was down in that room with us. And when we started talking about Ken, the caretaker, my K2 meter was going straight over to red and holding there. And I got 16 people in this room watching this saying, holy crap! You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And anyways, I asked her, I said, is Ken here? And she goes to red. And I took that as a yes. I said, okay, if Ken is here, I want to see red again. And it goes to red. So I said, okay, Ken, if you're here, can you turn this meter to orange? And we had about 5 minutes worth of conversation, yes, no questions, with Ken hitting orange every time.
Wow.
It was
That's
awesome.
amazing.
It was awesome. You know, so anyhow, this leads to my first question of the night, which is, I'm not big on paranormal tourism. And I think you guys know that, and people listening in on the show know that as well. So Derrick, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Okay.
Is there a big difference between what we call paranormal tourism and paranormal charity?
Yeah, paranormal charity is because you're raising money for heritage programs or any foundation that you're trying to help out, and so you're not putting, like you're not trying to raise money for yourself personally. You're doing it for a good cause, and but there's paranormal tourism. Well, at one point, people still want to experience it. They go through the experience of paranormal, and not everyone will go through something. I mean, you're going to have the odd person who's not going to experience anything at all. And there are people, I got friends out there that are very professional in the field that actually do paranormal tourism in Manitoba and Ontario, probably in this here in BC as well. But most of it's really highly big up in Manitoba and Ontario. And both my friends that work out in those two areas, they are constantly busy because the tourists that come into Manitoba or Saskatchewan, they want to experience the most active locations in Canada. So, but again, they don't make money themselves. They try to raise money for foundations as well as heritage sites, and so these people put their time and effort into it too. They really do enjoy, one, let the public know that history is important to share and tell the story about what did happen in the past. And these guys go way back into the 1600s. That's the reason why it's not just as much as we do in BC. So BC has its start around the 1850s, 1860s, but in eastern part of Canada, they start way at the beginning because that's where man landed on the eastern coast, and they started to mark their territory.
And Derrick, just so you know, your Skype is causing just a tad bit of feedback. If I can get you to put your mic on mute, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Mike Morin, you have done your own charitable events as well as paranormal tourism. What is your thoughts on the difference between the two?
I think paranormal tourism is awesome. It brings people up to locations they normally wouldn't go to.
Speak up, buddy. Speak up.
Sorry, you're on my laptop. I have to keep my cell phone quiet. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I will talk louder.
There you go.
I think paranormal tourism is a fantastic idea for the reason it'll bring people into areas they normally wouldn't go to. Like, for, how can I explain it? Paranormal investigations where people, smaller towns, survive off of people coming into their areas to check out their... Sorry, I just got home from work, literally. 11-hour shift.
That's okay. You're surviving.
I am. Let me hook my... go on to the next person. I'm just going to hook my microphone up.
Sounds good. Okay, you go do that. Amber, I'm going to bring you in here on this topic between paranormal tourism and charity, because there's a lot of people out there, and you deal with healing in the paranormal, so I'm curious to get your opinion on this, and go at length if you need to. It's okay. What I'm asking here is, when you do a charity event, and I pretty much think after doing this charity event that we actually had the spirits understanding what we were doing and why we were there. We tried to explain everything that we were doing. And I think they respected that. But on the flip side, if you go into a paranormal tourism, let's say it's a rundown hotel or a ex-prison or a closed-down mental asylum where those spirits are stuck there and they're being made to perform, is there a big difference in your eyes between the two?
Well, first of all, I'm probably going to say some things at some point that contradict each other, just like everybody does. But when I was tuning into what you were talking about, your specific experience this past weekend, the thing that was so amazing about that was I was sensing the spirit's gratitude for what you did for him to raise money for getting him back to Africa. That's what you said, correct?
Yes.
So that he could be transported back to Africa. And that is something that is so generous of everyone to do. And it was very special to him, and it meant a lot to him, and he never would have been able to, his body at least, would never have been able to make it home otherwise. And for complete strangers to do that for somebody can mean a lot to a restless spirit. Now, I'm not saying that he would have stayed here had he not been able to make it home, but sometimes it's just the little things that matter, like little pieces of somebody's life that are kind of tied up in a neat little bow, and it's like a present for them that they didn't expect. And they receive it at the end of their life, and it's an amazing gift. And it makes the transition that much sweeter. And that's what I felt like it was for him. And I think that that's why your charity event was so successful as well, is that the earthbound spirits who were there all gathered together and helped to make it such a successful event, because they were also grateful and excited about the event. They understood the significance of it. They appreciated this caretaker's, heart that he put into it, the energy, the time that he put into caring for them and the place, and they wanted to give something back. And he was with them, at that point, and he was one of them. And so that's a really neat, amazing story, something that we don't often hear about from that perspective. So I really liked that, hearing about it from that aspect. Now, as far as paranormal tourism versus paranormal, how did you put it, paranormal charity? Is that
Yes.
what you said?
Yes.
Okay. I am going to say that I'm probably going to take that on an individual basis. And the reason for that is because we have so many people that come into this field who have different personalities and motives. And I really look at the energy and the spirit of that person and what they are trying to accomplish in the field. There is somebody who can hold a charity event who accomplishes less than someone who can have a business that uses it for profit, and vice versa. So I look at it from the aspect of, what is that person really accomplishing in the field? What are they doing to advance the field, to help the field? I look at whether they're a light worker. I consider you a light worker, Dave, and I know we've talked about this personally. And so anything that you would do, I would, of course, even before I would hear about it, generally say, yeah, go for it. So those are the types of things that concern me, is not so much the label that we place on what it is that they're doing, but the energy behind the person and then therefore the project. And if you want me to go into a little bit more detail, I can. We have a group here in New Mexico made up of paranormal investigative teams. It's just like a social group, but there's a huge kind of debate raging right now as to whether paranormal healers, and it's just since I recently joined the group, oddly enough, as to whether paranormal healers should even be invited into the group, and whether they should be able to charge for their services, whether they're charging for their services in their own professional careers, like whether the group should be able to dictate how these people operate in their careers or not. And I said that I don't think that they should. I mean, we have mediums that make money off of using their gifts as a career. We have musicians that, play for money. We have people who use their gifts all over the world, whether they're mathematicians, whether they're professors, whatever their innate gifts are, they typically use them for financial purposes. That's what they do because they're good at it. And they can make a difference wherever they're at. And unfortunately, we're in the type of society where it's not a socialist society. It's a society where you have to use it for monetary gain. And we're not like the Native Americans, or we're not like the, ancient societies where everybody kind of came together, pooled their resources, and the shamans were provided for, and the village took care of them, and they didn't have to worry about where their next meal came from because they could do their healing work and the village would take care of them. Healers like myself have to provide for our basic needs. And so we're kind of in this situation where us and to a different aspect, paranormal people as well are trying to figure out how do we kind of navigate through this system that we're creating for ourselves and also make a difference, which is why most of us are in the field in the first place. So you said I could make it long.
No, true enough. And I think, though, and Mike, I'll bring you back in here because I hope you got your microphone set up now properly, but it also depends on who you're investigating with and if they are selfish or not. And I can tell you this, James Tyson and Jim Kolesnik, they were fantastic with the people. They were exactly what I expected them to be like, okay, which was very professional, very being able to explain everything, to take people by their hand who have never done this before, to allow them to have an experience while you're talking very professionally, because they are both very professional in what they do in regards to it. And, the way, after everything was done, we actually... Corey Greaves, my booking coordinator, along with myself, James, and Jim, we actually went into Ken's room, and we tried to get a hold of Ken in his room, but maybe he was too tired from all the people running around, because we don't know what's on the other side. But on the flip side, if you have people who are investigating with the right intentions and the right heart, that has a lot to do with it as well. And Mike, I'm curious if you would agree with that.
Yes, I would. I think intent when investigating to speak to the other side is there. If you go in with warm vibes, relaxed, and not wanting to stir things up with a parent, like with whoever you're investigating. Hold on, my microphone is really bad. Can you hear me?
You're going fine. Just keep going, man. All right, Mike just hung up on us. Damn it. Derrick, let's bring you in.
Okay.
All right. Your opinion in regards to adding people in there who actually know what they're doing and care for the spirit, rather than someone who comes in there trying to bully their way to get action.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of people come on all kinds of shows on TV that try to do the same thing, try to use bullying to get action, and that's not very respectful at all. And when one of the, I would say, I forgot the young lady's name here tonight.
Amber.
No, sorry, Amber. When you talk about First Nations people, Aboriginal people, when they come together and they, offer them down to the community to work with them, The days of tobacco has actually been lost, because that's what it was. They used to take tobacco or offerings and gifts for that medicine man or that person to come down to do their work. And traditionally, that, for example, if I was asked to come down to, traditionally used to be that if you're coming to an encampment and you're going to do some healing work on people, your teepee cannot be set up anywhere near everybody else's teepee in the village. You have to be camped about 500 feet away, because they believe that the spirits, they didn't want other spirits to come into other people's teepees or homes to be disturbed. So if you're doing that kind of spirit work, that's the way it was back then. And sometimes that custom, that tradition still happens today. There are so many varieties of things that people don't realize that they have to respectfully understand. When you are calling to talk to someone, you're offering and ask them to come forward. And I was actually very honored to have met Ken and to talk to him, even by himself sometimes. I was talking to him a few times. And some of the things he would say to me that, like all the people that were there that are in the spirit world, and he knew they were there because he'd see lots of shadows, but they'd never harmed him. And yet they apparently, what I understood, they actually went through a few other people that used to work there like him, before him, and they were so scared. So Ken was the only one that had a better understanding. And so that's why he was able to stick around, because he respected him. He knew that there was a reason to be there. And then his presence now on that location, Ken did say to me one time, he said, it'd be interesting to find out what it's like to be on the other side, to see what they're like. And Ken now has actually answered his question. So now he chose to stay there. He chose to be around because we were there for him. And he knew that his reason was to be there. But the interesting part, the cool part of it is that Ken can go back and forth between countries and parts of the world to visit his family as often as he feels like it. So he's never stuck there. That's one good thing about it. But he chose to be there because he knew very well that we cared, and we talked about him. As often as we bring up his name in a conversation, that Ken will be in the room. Or anyone else really who's actually in spirit. If we talk about them in conversation, the more we talk about them, the stronger the energy's presence. But there are people out there that are going to try to make their demands. I mean, I've seen some shows that are absolutely freaking ridiculous, that even some people used to bloodlet themselves to see them get attention from a spirit or a ghost, and they're going like, are you nuts? But this is the way they're trying to create a media. People like us that talk about this, we're trying to be as professional as possible, and in with the public, and with the media, because we are one day we're going to be like those people in the spirit world. We're going to be We're going to be the ones walking around, and we're going to try and make contact with one another somehow, those that are living, people can say, oh, there's Derrick, or there's so-and-so, and there's so-and-so. But I'm not saying I'm going to die now. I'll be here for a long time yet. But we're all going to be able to communicate with each other, even if it's the living or the dead. And one thing I've found out that's kind of cool, one of my lady friends said to me one day, who's a medium, and she says to me, people say, I've always wanted to say goodbye to so-and-so, before they passed away. And the cool thing she said, we don't have to say goodbye because they're still around. And that's where most people have that belief system. We always say we need to say goodbye. You don't have to worry about saying goodbye, because Ken will always be there, especially with Dave, because now he gets to visit Dave in his house.
Well, that's nice. Just add to the flow here. Add to the flow.
Yeah.
All right, Derrick, I'm going to get you to put your mic back on mute. I want to bring Mike back in here because I think we finally got his technical errors fixed up here. Mike, there's a lot of people when they investigate, and we were talking about while we were trying to get you back on about the great job that James Tyson and Jim Kolesnik from Vancouver Supernatural did in helping the people at the charity event that I put on this past weekend. And it really showed me something, that when you have an understanding of people who are professional investigators, which I will call them, who care not only for the people who are around them, but the spirits that are around them as well. That really makes a difference in what you're trying to garner in regards to respect and information that you're going to get, not only from the people who are there for the charity event, but from the spirits as well. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, respect is key, be it to the spirits and and living beings. I find... Hold on.
He just hung up on himself again. We're going to have to smack him around a little bit. Drop an elbow or something. This may have to get into wrestling. Derrick,
Get him to use his own cell phone and not to use his laptop.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on here for a second, Derrick, because I have a very interesting question in regards to this. You have been in the Clydesdale barn. We actually saw the Dark Shadow Man in there.
Yeah.
And one of the members of the group, Mike Smith, who also helps me out with this show, he was tagging along with me. And he walked away from the group. Not far, maybe 15, 20 feet, because he heard a noise in one of the Clydesdale stalls. One of the doors shook, and he went to shake that door. Now, that Clydesdale barn is meant for, or it was dedicated to an old World War I veteran, I believe. Okay, I don't know if the man passed away or not, but Mike called me up yesterday, and he basically felt that he had an attachment after that. And the weird part about it is, I walked him through that and told him what to do to help try and cleanse himself. But last night, he was actually having a lot of dreams about running away from explosions in World War I.
Yeah.
Help me out here in trying to figure this out.
It's because that person who actually wandered in there may have lived in that location, and because we're trying to communicate, people have to remember now too, there's actually graveyards in the back of and some of that land, and a lot of people don't realize it'll always be there. And so that World War I veteran or World War I soldier, it's there, right? And or he's there, and so when Mike is trying to make communication, or that person trying to make communication with that soldier says, well, you know what, I'll follow you, and I'll try to communicate with you, let you know what I went through. He's trying to get the message out to say, here I am, can you find me, can you talk to me, I need to talk to you, because he probably was buried but never resolved making contact with anybody in his family when he passed away. And sometimes they're also known as the unknown soldier. They may not have been buried there. They may have been killed in another country, and that person has been trying to get back to their loved ones. And when they came back in the early 1900s in the spirit world, and everything's changed. That barn and a lot of things were moved around. So the only way they can try to make communication is because the most active area, the most commonly active area, was the barn, because everybody went in there directly to that place. And so his spirit walked right in. He followed everybody and walked into the barn and say, here I am. And one thing they like to try and do is to move doors. No matter how heavy, they can still manipulate them. That's just the way it is. They can manipulate doors easy. They can move things back and forth. I mean, you think about that one guy, that shadow, when he lengthened his arm completely straight across the room and turned on the light. Right? Like, it was like Elastic Man, exactly what his arm looked like. Elastic Man, like straight out, and turned on the light. Right? That's exactly that's how it turned out.
And it's funny because I'm going to call in Mike here on his cell phone here.
Yeah.
So just bear with me here. Derrick, I'm going to get you to put your mic back on mute here for a second. We're all going to hear a ringtone here just for a moment while we try and connect with Mike. If he picks up his phone, Mike, pick up your phone. I know you're listening. Pick up. You never really know what to say when the phone is ringing. I know he's right there, too. Really? I can't believe he's not picking up.
You've reached Mike.
He's got his phone on mute.
Oh, yes. All right. Amber, I'm curious. What do you think in regards to Mike Smith getting that spirit attachment and then having dreams of World War I last night?
I think that it's pretty typical for that type of attachment, because you tend to begin to experience what that entity is, number one, trying to communicate to you about its life, and or what it's trying to, like some type of message that it's trying to communicate through that dream in the best way that it knows, or something that it experienced itself, or something that it's trying to communicate to you, and the best way that it can do that is through a dream. And so it happens a lot. I've definitely had that happen more times than I can count, and I know that a lot of people have gone through that. It's just an energy exchange, and sometimes, like with people, when we interact with them, we can start to develop energy cords, and it depends on how emotional the attachment, the exchanges between us, whether we have a really good conversation or connection with the person we're talking to, or whether it can even be a look or something like that, and then, or even bad if it's some argument or something like that. And the same with spirits. So we can walk into a room, and if there's this electric feeling in a space, and we may not know what it is, but if there's a spirit and we just happen to connect with it on that energetic level, then we have just made this really deep connection, a lot of times an emotional connection with that entity. And that exchange of energy is now inside of us, and we've absorbed a part of this entity, and so that it's not surprising that he's having dreams about that. And if people don't like that, sometimes what they can do, a technique that they can use, is just to envision whatever, and this is a little healing technique since I'm a paranormal healer, so just to keep it in mind, whether it's a person or a earthbound spirit, is just to envision that person or that spirit in front of you, and just to say, I love you, but I cut all cords to you, and that means energetic cords. So you can just picture the energetic cords running between you two, and it's almost like you take your hand and you just run it down your body, in front of your body, and it's almost like you're cutting, using your hand as a knife, and just cutting all those cords between you. And it releases those energetic cords so that you're no longer so attached to that person. So that's my little spiel on that.
All right, we bring Mike back in. I think we finally got a good connection. We've had a plethora of cutoffs with you, Mike. Are you sure the spirits aren't acting up with you?
I don't think they like what I have to say.
Yeah, but you're pretty. You're pretty. Yeah. You know what? I got accused by one of your new members as being your brother today.
I know. I said you're the much older, haggard-looking one.
I said I was way too pretty to be your brother. I'm not going to lie. Way too pretty. Either way, let's move on here. In regards to spirit attachment, Mike, you at Chronicles, you guys do a lot in regards to trying to prevent any type of spirit attachment helping out. When it comes to a charity event like that, you know, there's so many people there and so many different beliefs. It's hard to do any type of spiritual cleansing. I did one there when a lady came out of the post house. I got her, said a quick prayer, got her with Palo Santo wood, trying to pull my inner Derrick Whiteskycloud when I did that. But how important is it for people to understand with the paranormal that there has to be a cleansing done so that way you don't get attached to anything?
Oh, it's very important. At the end of the day, it's not a game. We're trying to establish communication and hopefully get messages from the other side for people. What I like to do, and what we did, for example, at the Bailey House, is we did two different types. Glenn did more religious, I don't like St. Michael type prayers, and then Derrick smudged. So we would cover both sides of the spectrum, so to speak, to ensure it's kind of like a blanket protection. So yeah, it is important.
When you go through that process, do you find that it actually works? Because a lot of people will say, I don't believe in that stuff. You know, what do I need to protect myself for? They're already dead.
I believe it works. I carry stones on me as well. Like I always have a black onyx on me. That's my stone of choice I use it for protection. I feel when I don't have that, when I go on an investigation, I do feel uneasy because that's kind of my paranormal safety blanket, so to speak. And I feel protected, and it's very important to stay protected. And it's very important to respect that you are protected.
Derrick, I want to bring you back in here now, if you don't mind, because the question I have for you, my friend, is both Mike and myself yesterday absolutely felt hungover. What is that hangover feeling after an investigation when you haven't drank a drop?
When you start feeling like it's like a hangover, it's because those ghosts or spirits are probably still messing around with your head and your body. They like to walk inside of you. That's what they go through. They mess with you, and that's why you feel kind of lethargic. It happens.
We call it a paranormal hangover, Dave.
Yeah, it happens. You feel lethargic. You feel like out of sort. Sometimes some people will feel very dizzy. They can barely stand. Some people can. A few times I've had a ghost walk right into me and take me over, where I can't see through my eyes. And there's times that they'll take me over to the point of trying to control me, and I'll fight them. And as I'm fighting them, and I start to feel like I want to throw up. And because they're a negative energy. Not everyone that's in spirit is a good spirit. And they want to control you. And I can tell the difference between good and bad. And I learned that through the years of experience, because I had one that was not a good person. He committed suicide. But before his living life was, he actually was a thief. He was a drug dealer, not a good person. He used to hurt people physically. And I was actually at a location where we were investigating, and he attacked me and walked into me and took me over, caught me off guard, walked in right behind me right from my back, walked right into me and started taking me over and trying to control me where I couldn't barely see through my eyes. In fact, I was trying to see, and I was starting to ready to fall face down. And then I told him to get out of me, and he refused to leave. So then I was fighting him to the point where he's making me throw up, because he was trying to fight, and I didn't want to step out of my spirit for him to take over me. And but what I decided to do was go home, and I got someone to take me home really quick in emergency, and I went home, and my wife prepared me. I phoned her ahead of time to prepare me some medicines in a bath, and I came in, stripped down, got into the tub, and I was on my knees, and she started putting in the medicines in the water and soaked up, and then she took a big, huge towel and soaked that up, and she laid it across my back when I was on my knees, and she would pray over me out loud, and she'd say, "Whitebeard, help your brother." And that's what happened, and we're just trying to get him out of me, that person that was not good. And we got him out, but after I was done, my whole body felt so wiped out. I had to fall asleep for at least a couple hours. I could not even hardly keep awake. It just knocked the living hell out of me. But that's one of the strongest ones I ever had. But that spirit was so determined to leave. But I had to fight him, and I was trying to send him off into the light, because he was going to fight no matter what to the end. So these things can happen.
Amber, I'm going to bring you in here in regards to this. If you can maybe talk about paranormal hangovers. Have you ever had one?
Yes, definitely. It really does, like Derrick was saying, it depends on the strength of whether it's an earthbound spirit or whether it's some type of entity that has never been in human form. So it does depend on the strength of that entity, and also whether it's negative or it's not so dark. I've dealt with some very, very what I would call demonic and even higher reptilian forces, and those have been the worst. And I wouldn't even call that a hangover. Those have, before I even knew what it was, I got involved in those cases. It was one of those learn through experience type of things, and it was very difficult. I didn't even know what I was doing or getting involved in, and it was trial by error, and I was it was by the grace of God and by the spirits that I work with that I made it through. And it affected me for months. So that's how bad it was. Just my energy, my strengths, just affected me in other ways, whether I would get attacked sometimes physically where I was, whether people around me would get attacked. Everybody involved in the case was attacked in one way or another. And it was pretty crazy. It's one of those things that you hear about with the exorcisms where, priests are killed and everybody starts dying and people get really sick and everyone involved in the case, something really odd happens to them. And so it was that type of thing. And yeah, it can happen. That's why it's nothing to mess around with. So you sometimes walk into your worst nightmare.
Derrick, I have a question for you from Mario. He is asking, what exactly does it feel like and what exactly happens when you get a walk-in?
Mike was there with me. Mike Morin was with me one time. We did an investigation in one of the places in Barkerville. And it's actually, you could see it on video. One of the videos we did. And the ghost walked right from behind my back and took me over. And then Mike looked at me and says, "You're not Derrick." And because he said he could see it in my eyes that I changed. It feels weird. It's like part of your body steps aside. Like it's like part of you, your own identity walks into to me it feels like I'm actually in a little room somewhere. And it's not mine. Like it's not, I'm not in my body. So I'm actually looking at my body being controlled. And it's like I'm actually on the outside looking in. It's kind of strange how to explain that. Or at times I'm not outside looking in. I'm actually in this room. It feels like there's crystals all around it, like it's a crystal room. And all you hear is crackle sounds. And I'm actually very safe in there. I'm not harmed. And I have no memory of, I have no idea who the person is that's in me because I don't know. And all I hear is mumbling. Like, if my voice, like clearly you'd hear my voice, but if I'm having a conversation with you, but if I'm in that room, all you hear is that, just an M sound, but you're not hearing me talking or whoever's talking through me. And then I'll ask later, what did I say? Or what did he say or it say? And it's a few times it's happened to me, and I think we've done a few investigations where Mike has got freaked out by who I became, and I let the person kindly speak through me, talk through me, because I know very well they're not going to harm me, they're not going to hurt me, because I have a guide that allows it, because they know it's safe. But if there's a person that they don't like, that's a negative, my guide would not even let that person walk into my body. He's so adamant, like, no, not again. You're not going to go through that. So because I used to be more of, like when I said that first time I experienced something so negative, I allowed it because I wanted to try it, and I'd never go through that again. But if anybody asks me what it feels like, you would never want to know, because it feels like that you have no ability to hang on to the steering wheel to drive your own body. You have no. It's like your hands are there. You're there, but you can't move your hands. You can't do nothing. You're like, it's if you're not moving, like physically control of yourself. It controls you. It's a very strange feeling, but some of these people can have the ability to do this, and some don't. And I've started to go through it more. I've been dealing with this now for 16 years. Before that, I used to be really freaked out, like, no one's touching my body, forget it. Now I'm a little more, because I wanted to know what it's like. I'm more curious now to experience it. So it's, that's just the way things are. It's hard to explain. People can ask the question consistently, what's it like? Was that, people are going to say, was that person crazy? The one that took me over, yes, that first time, yes, he was nuts. He was, like I said, he was, I knew I found out later he was a drug addict, he was a drug dealer, and he was a very bad person. He hurt people. I guess he didn't like the way his life was, and he committed suicide. But for some reason, I was in the wrong place, the wrong time, and it was not even anywhere near a graveyard, but apparently somewhere he hung himself close to a location that I went to with other people that I was helping to bring peace for the family. And I guess he was determined to come out and to say, here I am, and I got hit. I got hit with a guy, controlled me, and they saw it. And he kept me in control for half an hour. I have no memory of it for a half an hour. And that's where I started to wake up real quick, like open my eyes real quick, and like, what the hell's going on? And they said, Derrick, you're really weird. That's not even, like, you look really strange, weird. Like, you were so huge. Your face just swelled up. You were like somebody else. Like even my facial features were changing. Like he said, your eye, you look different. You didn't look like you. And then I started throwing up after. And it was harsh. And it got me. So,
Derrick, I want to ask a follow-up question with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
When that happens, when you just get taken over and you don't know, are you conscious in your own body? Do you know what time it is? Do you know what's happening? Where do you go?
I don't know. It's like I get pulled back and I'm held back somewhere in a small space while they're talking. There's sometimes I have knowledge of it. Like I can hear them a little bit. What they're saying, and then there's times like I'm gone, it's almost like I hear this, like it's a whistling sound, like, and I'm gone, like that, and then I don't know where I am. And it happened to me another one time. It happened to me in one of the houses we investigated. I think it was in Burnaby, with Mike and them, and the guys said I collapsed. and I don't remember that. I remember waking up after, but yeah. So sometimes these happen. It can, someone asked me, it's dangerous. Well, you know what? When a person, here's the thing. I am a shaman. I'm a medicine man. And I've met so many people out there saying that they're registered shamans, or they're people teach them to be shamans in a matter of 6 months to a year or whatever, 2 years. And they are certified on a piece of paper from some person who says they're certified shamans. And I looked at them and I'm like, you're not a certified shaman. I said, you're taught by that person that certifies you. Mm-hmm. But I always ask them the question, can you talk to the other spirit world? Can you go into dimensions and talk through them? Because that's what shamans did. Mm-hmm. They actually can talk through the nether world, other worlds. That's what makes a shaman. That's what person can talk to and work with medicines. That's a shaman. That's a person that can communicate with spirits in different ways. So we all go through something different.
All right, and we're going to wrap this up, this hour number 1 here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We are with the crew of Chronicles of the Unknown, Derrick Whiteskycloud and Mike Morin, along with Amber Avalone down in New Mexico. She's our token American tonight. Paranormal Healing Project. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. We are going to be right back after this brief break coming up right now.
Looking for news beyond the mainstream news? Head to spacedoutradio.com and check out the SOR Spacewire. This is Spaced Out Radio's Eric Markham, News Director for the SOR Spacewire. Daily, I will bring you intriguing stories and outlandish reports from what's going on around the world. UFO sightings, paranormal activity, conspiracies, alternative health, and so much more. And if you have news, email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report, and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Have you ever had an extraterrestrial experience? One you just couldn't explain? Well, maybe I can help. Hello, I am Samantha Mullet. On the second Tuesday of each month, I will join Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio to bring a human aspect to ET contact. It's something I've lived with my entire life, and I'd love to help you understand. Let's share our experiences. The ET Experience, the second Tuesday of each month, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Jolene with Reveal Reiki and Readings, and I want you to relax. Let me help you chill out and get in touch with your body, mind, and soul. In this busy world, sometimes we need to let go, and this is where I can help. Visit my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr&r.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Hi there, this is your psychic medium, Joanna, and I would love it if you would join us every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. With host James Tyson, we'll bring you personal psychic messages on two mediums and a large. Questions about love, life, career changes. We would love it if you would come and join us live. Call in and listen in for the experience. Allow us to open the doors to your other side. Two mediums and a large, heard only on Spaced Out Weekend at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
Do you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Let us know at spacedoutradio.com, where you can sign up to become a Space Traveler member today. Or you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show. Welcome back to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you along for the ride as we go into another week of the mighty SOR. Tomorrow night on the show, we're going to be joined by a young lady named Elise Soper. There's a mystery in Boston, Massachusetts, where men are just disappearing and then showing up dead. We're going to find out about Boston's missing men tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time on the mighty SOR. We want to say hello to everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 160 countries around the world. Good to have you along with us as we continue to build our audience there. This is week number 3 with you guys. Thank you so much for letting us be your nighttime entertainment. If you're listening in on Revolution Radio, it is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password in the SOR Space Travelers Club for tonight. Pertinaciously is your password. If you're a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club, you know what to do with it and use it wisely. Remember, you can find us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like. Spaced Out Radio Show on Instagram. I can be followed at Dave Scott SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. If you want to hear our archives, you can go to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn or download this show and others on iTunes. Tonight we are talking with Chronicles of the Unknown. Glen Ferguson has now joined us, along with Derrick Whiteskycloud and Mike Morin. And, of course, from the Paranormal Healing Project, she's part of this group now, Amber Avalone. And pretty soon she will have a new column on our website called Ask Amber, your paranormal column. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Welcome back, crew.
Hi.
Hello.
All right. We got a bunch of questions here, and right before the break we were talking about spirits entering the body. So, Derrick, I'm going to focus on you here for just a little bit, if you don't mind, to catch up on some of these questions in regards to the audience that happens. Okay. The first one comes from Dawn, and she says, do the visits have to do with any type of astral projection, or do they just kick you out of your own body?
Astral projection is a little bit different. It's hard to explain that part, because the astral projection actually is when you're either at subconscious state, which means you're either meditating or sleeping. And there's also like an astral projection, which is a remote view. So it depends on each individual, but not a controlling thing, no.
Moving on, Eric is asking, Derrick, you being a spiritual leader or people like you, whether it's a shaman, priest, monk, minister, can you convert a negative spirit to a being of light?
Convert? I know, we tried to convert Glenn.
That's not working.
Sometimes it's hard to explain that one, because I don't think anybody really has enough proof to say you can convert something bad into something good. They all know they all have to go through a life review when they pass away, and they have to understand what they've done wrong. And sometimes they don't want to go to the light. They want to be work things out to see what happens from there on. So it takes them a while. It depends on each individual that's in this world that had lived.
We'll get to another one from Trip here. He is asking, Derrick, have you ever been to a location twice and been possessed by the same entity?
No. Not with me, no.
All right, moving on here. We'll get Glenn, we'll get you in on this one. And Galen is asking, in the 1970s, Canadian researchers did an experiment to create a spirit because they thought manifestations were spirits created by the living. What's your thoughts on that?
Is it a mental aspect or is it a physical aspect?
Well, that's, I guess, part of the whole question, because the researchers were trying to create a spirit.
I'm not quite sure whether you could actually manage that, because we do believe that it's our soul that continues on, some sort of form of consciousness that we retain even after our body fails us. As far as the physical, I'm not sure where to go with that one.
Amber, what's your opinion on that?
I just like Glenn's accent. I want him to talk more. So can you, that was a little bit different question. Can you go through that again so I can make sure that I get it right?
Not a problem. Galen's question is, in the 1970s, Canadian researchers did an experiment to try and create a spirit because they thought manifestations were spirits created by the living.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a pretty broad...
That's a Canadian spirit, not an American spirit.
Right. Yeah. That's a really broad subject. I would say that, and that's the same question that I would have, is that, okay, how do you think they were created by the living? Mentally, or do you think they were some type of manifestation of the mind, or some type of group consciousness or something like that? But, well, I mean, if you're just asking for my opinion on that, I would say great. I mean, do the experiment. I think that might give us more insight into what's going on in the paranormal world, just regarding all of this phenomenon as a whole, it may not prove what they wanted it to. They may not get the answers that they were looking for, but some of that research might help us in some other areas of the paranormal field. I don't agree with what their initial, I guess, belief is, or why they started the experiment, but I think it would be great to look into. Since I know nothing about the experiment, I can't really give much of an opinion on it. I'd have to research it first before I could give you much more of an opinion.
If I remember correctly, before you go any further for a second, Dave, I think if I remember correctly, I think that experiment was actually either started in Manitoba or Ontario.
Yeah, I believe it had something to do with a manifestation of the mind, is what the researchers believed.
Yeah, those are the guys that probably were, because in Manitoba back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, mostly the 70s, a lot of those experiments were taking place by they were trying to do all kinds of stuff. I mean, I remember that's when I'm from Manitoba, and there's a lot of people trying to experiment in different types of manifestations with spirits and see if you can actually create one. Or are we just imagining it?
Does she know the name of the experiment?
No.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Galen is asking, and Glenn, we'll get you to start on this one. Gail is asking, pardon me, can a spirit entity be ended, or are they eternal?
They're eternal. Just like when we pass on, we lose our body, it's still going to carry on. Like Einstein once said, like energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it just moves to a different form. I believe that. No, we're continuous, we're flowing.
So you can't kill a spirit, is what you're saying?
No, you can't.
Otherwise, where would they go?
To the light, apparently.
Or the White House, one of the two.
There you go. We won't go there with the White House.
Oh, come on, that was funny. That was funny. Yeah, man, tough crowd tonight. Tough crowd.
White House is haunted.
Yes, it is. And, I know James Tyson has been trying to track down someone to talk about the ghosts of the White House, but, man, that's tighter than any type of alien footage getting that out of the U.S. government. That's for sure. Mike, we'll start with you on this one, if you don't mind. Amanda is asking, can you cleanse your home and spirits that don't leave stay because they feel they need to teach you something?
That's a pretty good question. I'm still trying to focus on that 1970s thing. They made a movie on that, I think, in 2014. But give me one. Can you repeat that question for me, please?
Yeah, Amanda is asking, let's say you cleanse your home of spirits.
Yeah.
Okay, but a spirit doesn't want to leave. It wants to stay because it needs to teach you something. Just because you cleanse it, can the spirit still stay?
That's. I would say no, but most people may say yes. I feel once you've cleansed your house, your sanctuary, it is cleansed. Now, if you bring something in with you, be it an attachment or something that follows you, that could be different. I cleanse my house weekly. Sometimes twice a week, because I don't want anything in my sanctuary.
Well, the same as your underwear, but that's another point. Amber, I'm curious on your part here. Do you believe that a spirit, even though you cleanse your home, can stick around if it has a message for you? Amber?
Oh, hey, sorry about that. I had to turn the, you know what, it depends on how you cleanse your home, because if you just cleanse the home and don't include yourself, cleansing yourself, and you do have an attachment to your person, then that attachment won't leave. So, you do need to make sure that if you do any type of home cleansing and you want it to include everything, that you include yourself. A spirit cannot stay if you cleanse correctly and you want everything to leave. And I want to say that I want to just make a notation there that you have to use the right cleansing method, because there are spirits or entities that are very powerful that need certain techniques in order to have them moved along. So not every cleansing method is across the board. So if you have something that doesn't work, you have to use, you have to try something else. But that might be the reason that a spirit is staying. It's just because you haven't used the right method for that particular entity. But just as far as your particular question is concerned, no, a spirit can't overpower your own will if you're just talking about your will versus its will, because it's really all about you and what you want versus what it wants. Unless it's a spirit guide. Now, you want to make sure that you're not mistaking some type of other, earthbound spirit for something like a spirit guide, or an angelic being, or an ascended master, or something like that, who would be able to potentially, especially a spirit guide or a guardian angel, stick around with you.
Glenn, I'm curious your thoughts on this.
Repeat the question again.
Well, it's about cleansing. If you clean your house or cleanse your house of any spirit activity, what if you have a spirit who still has a message for you? Can they come back or stay, for that matter?
Not necessarily. The whole point of cleansing, even though it's ritual based, you're expected to do certain things at a certain time, and it's more about the person who's using that ritual, their belief in what they're doing. But for the person whose house you've cleansed, it's an ongoing thing. Like Mike said, he cleans his place about maybe once a week, maybe twice a week. I'll do it probably about once a month. But more so because we're dealing with the dead more. I like to keep my front mat clean all the time. I've got salt piles everywhere. I've got crosses on the windows. It's a little excessive on my level of protection, but that's what works for me. Like certain things that work for Mike, he's got his rocks and whatever else he has. Same with Derrick. We all have something we believe in, and that's our protection.
Glen's the British version of Constantine.
Thank you.
Interesting. That's an interesting way to put it, Constantine.
Thank you.
Derrick, I'll give you final say on this one in regards to spirit attachment and whether or not you can cleanse your home, and if a spirit has the ability to give you a message, can it stick around?
Well, yeah, they like to stick around and not in your house half the time, but like you guys are discussing the idea of like cleansing as much as you possibly can. I'm always exposed to spirits every day because people come in my homes and they're coming for readings. So you have to go through the cleansing. That's just the one thing I find is mandatory. But one thing I've always learned, if you do your prayers of protection all the time, and you're asking for assistance and you're asking for the higher source of power, the higher source of spirit to work with you, no one should ever come to harm whatsoever, that you should be taken care of. And unless you're looking for something that you're challenging, and I've come across people who've played with Ouija boards. Recently, I've again 3 or 4 young people now played with Ouija boards, and they'll come into my house and the first thing they'll say, they don't know why they're having problems and nightmares and dreams, and then I say, okay, what are things you're doing in your home now that are not normal for you to do all the time? And she said, well, then they mentioned about a Ouija board, and I said, well, gee, duh. So you're bringing lower forces of light. If you don't know how to use it correctly, you end up bringing lower forces in, and you're causing yourself sickness. So I always tell people that they need to protect themselves. Do a prayer protection before you start anything, whether it's a ritual or even type of making communication with spirit, or if you're actually just having a daily part of your life. Most people always ask for that little bit of white light even when they travel to protect them.
Well, let's move on here, because Jim from Vancouver Supernatural, who was at the 108 with me this past weekend, he is asking, and Glenn, we'll start with you on this one, has anyone ever done any studies at a location after a cleanse to prove that there's nothing there?
We do as a group. We tend to head back on a frequent basis. We've had clients now for 5-6 years now that we continually head back to, just to see how things are going. You know, they're always doing improvements or renovations on locations, and we just want to know if that kind of kicks up any extra activity that we've missed or maybe overstepped. But directly after, we're generally in contact at least once a week just to make sure everything's still going fine.
Mike, what do you think? Have you ever tried out a place after it's been cleansed just to see?
Yeah, I like to do an investigation twice. Space it a month or two, depending on the amount of activity that's happened, to find consistency in your evidence and to see if you've actually helped, or to see if the cleansing has helped. So yes, we do. Yeah.
Amber? Cleansing?
Well, first of all, as a paranormal healer, I like to tell people that the idea that there will never be any paranormal activity after a paranormal cleansing is actually a misconception, because there will always be some type of paranormal activity within a home. It's just a matter of a different type of paranormal activity. What we're hoping for is that whatever was bothering the people beforehand is gone. And yes, I have done checked into houses that I've cleansed and cases, and from numerous occasions with numerous people, and it has been things have been removed, and people have said that it is no longer bothering them. The issue, the entity, whatever has been going on has never come back. They've never had that same problem again. So whatever I've done, whether it's been shamanically, whether it's been with some type of house cleansing, has worked, and that's always great. But what I tell people too is that you are responsible for continuing to keep yourself and your home cleansed on a regular basis. It's not a one-time cleanse. Like, I don't come in and I don't cleanse your home and make it perfect for the rest of your entire life. You know, you are responsible for the upkeep of your house, because whatever you do going forward will affect what happens in your home. And just like the guys have been saying, you know, they continually, because especially they're involved in the paranormal field, and they expose themselves, just as I do, to paranormal activity on a regular basis, and they have to do that upkeep. So people just going out shopping at the grocery store, going to your regular job, watching a paranormal TV show, whatever you do, you have to keep being interested in these types of shows, listening to us on the radio. You have to keep yourself protected and cleanse your own homes in the process. So, yeah, it works, but you've also got to do your own cleansing as well and upkeep.
You bring up an interesting point, Amber, and I'm going to stick with you on this because you're the one who said it. You brought up the fact that there's a lot of people out there who have plenty of exposure to paranormal phenomena. Can that affect you in a negative way if you're around too much paranormal activity?
Yes, definitely. They're always, in my opinion, the paranormal field benefits best by balance, just like everything does. And a lot of times we have people who can become addicted to paranormal shows, and what they can do is they can become addicted to the drama of the paranormal field and of the shows and the emotional highs, and they don't spend enough time on contemplation, on meditation, on the light, on filling themselves with what's good, whether that be their own spiritual practice or whether that be mudras or incantations or prayers or some type of spiritual practice that they want to do themselves that has to do with the paranormal community. And that's really, really important anytime you're involved in the paranormal, is to make sure that you spend just as much time on exploring this is my opinion, but I've found this to be really true for the people that I know and for myself and the cases I've worked on, is that you have to explore also the higher realms. So how do you keep your chakras clean and cleared and healthy? How do you keep your body healthy? How do you nutritionally keep yourself healthy? So your physical body, your mental body, your emotional body, your spiritual body, because the paranormal affects all of that on so many levels and in so many ways that we don't understand yet. And so the more that we're proactive about keeping ourselves clear and cleansed in all of these ways, the easier it is for us to approach the paranormal realm in a way that allows us to still enjoy it and to experience it for years to come and to make a positive difference in this field.
Glenn, let's get your thoughts on that, because you've been around the paranormal for well over 35 years. And do you feel that too much exposure to any type of paranormal phenomena can be a danger?
Oh, yeah, of course it will be. Like, take, for example, Ryan Buell. The guy's a mess. Or what can I say? Ryan Buell has been exposed quite well to what we deal with on a regular basis. And he's come the worst for wear of it. And he's not the only investigator out there, even with those guys with TV shows, that have had an issue above and beyond the fact, especially with depression.
Michael, what do you think?
I think it could lead to depression. I could think too much paranormal could be a bad thing, because you're giving away and using up so much of your energy and emotion in what you're doing, be it contacting the afterlife and basically counseling the living who have solicited your services. So I think it's good to have space away from it, which I do quite a bit. I think it keeps your head screwed on straight, so to speak.
Do you think then, Michael, that there's too many people who are cocky out there? They don't really know. Maybe they don't bless themselves or cleanse themselves before or after an investigation, and they bring all this home. Do you really think that it can be an adverse effect down the line, maybe with mental instability, like Glenn was saying with Ryan Buell, or maybe something worse?
Well, yeah, if you're going to go into a dangerous location and not protect yourself and rattle the tiger's cage, you're going to have some effects from that, because you're going to upset the dead who you're going to investigate when you should be respecting them and asking for their permission to talk to them.
Derrick, I'm going to give you final say on this one in regards to exposure to the paranormal. This has been a lifelong event for you. You got spirits coming through your home on a daily basis when you have your clients over. Do you think that there is something inherent in regards to this? Because if you're having a plethora of activity on a daily basis, at one point that is going to affect you mentally or physically.
It can. It can put you, at times, if you're not aware of it, it can put you through depression. And at times, it can actually break up a paranormal, if you're actually a part of a paranormal team, it can turn itself into breaking up the team. Because if one person falls, or maybe a couple other guys will start to separate from each other, they don't get along after. And you wonder, and then they're going like, what's going on here? How come we're not getting along? And it's because we put so much pressure on ourselves in our investigating, for example, and we don't realize what we bring back with us. Like, even at times, after an investigation myself, I've had my moments where I would fall asleep and I get woken up by a spirit that I have no idea who this person is, and then after I brought that person back with me, or they followed me or followed us, and I'm sure all four of us that we've had of our own team has had one of those experiences at least one time, and sometimes we don't wonder why we don't get a proper sleep for a few days. Is because those spirits are trying to keep us awake and say, hi, how are you doing, or what are you doing, and they're bugging us. And at times I like to get into your head and mess with you and try to control you. So people don't realize paranormal investigating, or if you're going into a place that is haunted, you need to be aware of one thing. Make sure you got a team partner with you, because if you go in there by yourself, you are in more danger than you think. Because when you come out of that room or building, you may not be the same person you were before you went in. Because spirits have a way of messing with your head and making you feel like you don't belong, or that you shouldn't live. And that's why this one fellow that Glenn mentioned is so messed up. When he started his TV series, for example, he looked like the most sensible person in the world. Now, there are so many other paranormal investigators that we know of, other teams, have committed suicide or killed their wives, and they don't know why they did it. Nobody's going like, what the hell? That they're a married couple, all of a sudden the guy killed his wife. Why? They don't know why. They're a happy couple, all of a sudden gone. And you're thinking, it's paranormal investigating, because people get caught up in the media, they get caught up with fame at times, or they get caught up with something that's so dark they don't realize. Because if you're looking for the most haunted, most people want to check the most haunted or go through the most scariest. And if there are any murders that took place in any of these buildings, expect to go home with something messing with your freaking head, because that person who was the killer was messed up in their head too. And we're bringing it back with us. That's the etheric energy of those persons, or that person or persons, especially even in prisons, psych wards. And we know, we can vouch for that, because Glenn got hit twice. He got bit twice being in one of the centers when he was doing a movie. And he showed us the photographs. It's not because he challenged it, because he was there, just innocently standing there, and he got bit by a ghost. Why? It's because Glenn was chosen by them, and he's like, holy crap, I've never experienced anything quite like that before. How in the hell do I deal with that? So what our job is, as parent team, we're here to find the truth. We're here to make contact, to say, what did happen? What can we do? How can we tell the story? We're not there to be rescue mediums. That's not our job. If there's something needs to be done, if there's supposed to be a rescue, then it's up to us as a team, not just one person alone. We're not there to go become rescue mediums. It's not our job. Our job is to go there to see what happened in the past. And that's why the story comes forward. but we all will eventually, at one time, will come home feeling depressed. Because even my wife will say to me, "You're not yourself," and she will stay away from me until I clear up my freaking head, and she'll say, "That's not you, and you need to get yourself cleared up," and she'll help me to get cleared up from what was following me home. And these things happen. And it can even happen to you, Dave. You don't know why. You go through you may go through just a very brief moment of yourself thinking, "Oh man, I'm not feeling right today. I'm just short rage." Oh, and then next thing you know, you're thinking, "What the hell? That's not me." That's what they like to do. They like to play with you and mess with your head inside. So we have to be aware of that it's not just us personally on our own. This is what happens when we deal with the spirits, not spirits, but ghosts. Or because we're challenging them, we're going to find and make contact. And so this is the thing. We have to be aware of it. When we come home, we have to make sure that we cleanse ourselves, that we're not going to become affected by it. And I am with my team, that I work with my team, that we all work together as brothers, and that we make sure that each one of us is absolutely good and clear. If we're not, then we redo it again until that person is taken care of.
Even after that, the possibility of us having a paranormal hangover afterwards are pretty high.
Yeah.
Let's get to a question from Ron here, and he is asking, and Glenn, we'll start with you on this one. How long will residue last after a cleansing and crossing over of spirits?
There's no real time frame on that. It could take a few minutes, it could take a few days, maybe even a few weeks. It depends on how quickly they dissipate. Generally, the weaker ones will go first, but those who want to hang on, that's why I advise to re-cleanse, just to give it a little bit more of a push at the door. When we do cleansings as well, we tend to leave windows open. That way they have an escape route. We don't back them into corners and try to challenge them. That would be silly and ridiculous and not look good on camera. But anyway, it's one of those things where you have to just base it on what you're reading at the time when you're at the location.
Mike, I'd like to get your opinion on that. About residue, how long does it last after a cleansing or a crossing over of spirits?
I can answer for the cleansing, but not so much the crossing over of spirits. That would be a Derrick question. But for the cleansing, I think immediately, I think depending on how thorough you are, I pretty much make sure there's no residue. Like I'll just utter what Glenn just said. You have to have an exit for all the spirits to leave the house when you're doing like a smudging, to ensure there's no residue, because residue is like it'll grow into another spirit, say. So you want to make sure there is no residue after cleansing. So for me, it does not last, is my answer.
Amber.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the last answer, because the techniques that I use, it's immediate. And the people the homes that I've worked with, they notice an immediate difference as well. The people will be standing there, and they've even said themselves that, it's gone. And there was actually a case that I worked on just recently, and I did the walkthrough on the apartment one night, and I was supposed to go back and do the cleansing a few days later. And before I went back to do the cleansing one night, I decided to do a shamanic cleansing when I was at my own house. And so I did that, and I cleansed out quite a few things. One of them was an entity that was almost like a spider-type creature that I had actually seen before in one of my dreams, and cleared out the woman's, I helped the woman's two daughters that had died cross over into the light. And then there were a lot of other souls who were in the apartment. And so a lot of them were crossed over. And she didn't know that I had done any work that night, but she called her sister the next morning, and she said that she got the best night's sleep that she had gotten in as long as she could remember. Usually she couldn't sleep longer than like maybe 2 or 4 hours a night, but she had slept for 8 hours that night, and she woke up and she had more energy than she had had in the longest, again, that she could remember. And she was cleaning her house, she was doing the laundry, she was babysitting her granddaughter, she was, just doing all of this stuff. She was telling her sister this, and I contacted her sister later that morning and said, hey, I just did a shamanic cleansing, just to let you know. And so it was great for me to have that confirmation that it had helped so much without anybody knowing. It was kind of like a blind study for everybody. And so it does work when you do healings like that. And of course it's because it's not just us doing the work. It's because of spirit. You have so many spiritual helpers that come in, and it's, the energy of the higher dimensions that allows this to happen. And you work with so many beings that are there, and the ghost higher selves are also in agreement with what happens. And so it's just a beautiful process. It can be done immediately, and there's no residue that's left over. So that's the amazing part about that, is that it really does completely clear out the energy of a place if it's done properly.
Derrick, you got a final word on that question in regards to residue on a cleansing and afterwards?
Well, on the residue, you actually feel really good after. When I went through mine, you feel really light. Your body feels really light. It's like it's a really different feeling. You feel like it's just like as if you had a bath. You feel you had nothing feeling. You don't. I explain it. You feel like nothing's bothering you anymore. Like you're done. I'm clear. I'm okay. I feel really good. And that's exactly what she's talking about. It's interesting. A lot of people go through that type of stuff. They don't understand. And one thing, when she says it's like a spider type of feeling or energy, it is like that. People feel like they're going through like a spider-like feeling, like they put their hand and they walked into a spider web or like a cob, and then someone's wrote to me and says, "Oh, Spider-Man's in the room." No, it's not that. It's just basically spirit has a way of manipulating different kinds of energy and their presence in the room, and we try to evaluate what's right and what's wrong. That's all to do with our intuition. That's how we feel what's comfortable. We don't feel comfortable. That's why. And also, do we deal with our senses in our chest? For example, sometimes our heart feels like it's pounding more than it should. Our stomach starts to twist up, or we become overly excited or overly in attention. So we're trying as much as we possibly can to feel positive. And so when it's good to have people like Amber and my partners to work with, because there may be times that I might not feel right about something, and then my guys will have to give me a hand, right? So, because they're going to see something that I don't see, no one's perfect, and we try to work as a partners and as a brotherhood, so to speak, making sure that we take care of each other. We have to watch to the back. You got to watch each other's back. If you don't, then it's becomes you don't want to be just the only one to say, well, I can take care of myself. We have to do it all together. And when Amber works by herself, the thing is that she's on her own. You know, she has to trust her gut feeling, what feels right, that's clear, and then she's trying to understand what's there, who's there, and also that is trying to interfere with this family. So then, you know, she's not entirely always telling the family everything that she's actually experiencing. She's just telling them, what do you feel now? And they're the ones that make that decision if it feels right or not. They're the ones that makes it feel like it feels good. We just go through our job is to clear up the mess that they may have started or that was already there before they got there. And part of it's rescue, part of it's not.
Glenn, I have a question for you. This one comes from Mario.
Yeah.
And, of course, I lose it in the scrolling here. Here it is. Glenn, how do you know you got hit by a ghost?
For me, I get a rather nasty gut reaction. Like, I believe that every time we walk through one or one walks through us, they leave a little bit of themselves as they go through. That's why you were talking about earlier about your friend who was at the museum and was standing next to the mannequin.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, he may have picked up something walking through him, just a little piece, a little bit of memory. And that's probably why I had those recurring nightmares for a couple of days. We kind of get that as well when we go on investigations where we take a little bit of something away from the location itself. That's where we tend to do a lot more cleansings and rituals after the fact, and even during an investigation, depending on the location. But it can affect you pretty badly. Like, personally, myself, I've got to the point where I've actually had to pull over the car, open the door, and throw up. It was that nauseating in effect. But it generally wears off. Like Derek says, with immediate cleansing, it gets sorted out a lot quicker.
We witnessed him throwing up.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't on camera, thank God.
Follow-up question from Mario, Glenn, and we'll ask the rest of the panel this as well. What are some of the indications or signs that someone has been hit by a ghost?
Their demeanor completely changes. They're not the same person that they were before. They get angry quickly. You can tell by their eyes that something is wrong. It's happened to me where Troy, who's not here tonight because he's a little bit sick, he's noticed a difference in my appearance when I've been taken over by something, to the point where when I caught eye to eye with him, he's felt as if something else was behind my eyes, looking at him.
Mike, what's your opinion on that? You haven't spoken in a while.
I know, I've been listening. Repeat the question for me, Dave.
All right. Just how do you know? What are the signs if a spirit has hit you or put its grasps on you?
Personally, like Glenn said, demeanor changes. When I've had personal experiences, I'll go quiet. I'll withdraw from people just because my energy's gone. I feel when I've been hit, they go for my energy because I give off a lot of positive energy. We've had guys get scratched. That's how you know when you've been hit by an entity. Derrick is a good example. Entities will go into him, and his whole demeanor changes, even the way he talks. So it's pretty black and white. You can see usually right when it happens to people if you're watching for it and you're used to looking for it. When we're on investigations, we watch over each other quite a bit to ensure that we're all safe and okay and that none of us are being harmed or attacked or hit.
Amber?
That's pretty much an ongoing thing. Like, we'll check on each other on a regular basis on an investigation. Mm-hmm. And even when we've done investigations, like the last time we were at Barkerville, we did an event up there. When we got back to camp, you could tell that something was affecting Mike. Like he says, he goes completely quiet, he shuts up. You could even talk to him, and he'll completely ignore you. And that lasted for about 20 minutes, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's correct. I just don't want to be there, or I don't want to talk to anyone. It's either for me, it's be quiet or become an arsehole. So I choose to be quiet. And that's just how I'm affected personally by that stuff. That's how I know I've been hit.
Or one who likes to walk into the traffic.
Yeah.
Amber, I'm curious to get your opinion on this because you are a paranormal healer. Do you think that the ability to get hit by spirits is something that people should watch out for, number one? And number two, if you're telling someone going into that situation what to look out for, what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think everybody can get hit, and I get hit even though I do quite a bit of protection, but then I also open myself up a lot when I am doing readings when I go into a home, because that's why I'm there, is to pick up on what's in the house. So I do get hit, and some of the things that I'll get is extremely cold. So it's like all of the heat just goes out of my body. My hands especially, and feet, arms, legs, whatever, will just go ice cold all of a sudden, even if the air around me is same temperature. I feel them because I'm, such an empath. I'll just feel them touching my body. I can hear them sometimes. I can also, my face or my skin color goes completely white. And that's kind of odd for people to see. They'll just say that I look like a ghost, and I've had people say that, use that term a lot. It's just like all of the color drains out of my face. And I've had pictures where it's odd. I mean, you can just see I have no color in my skin. And I look like I'm, like the guys are talking about. It's just my face that has this odd type of look to it, as if you can tell I'm struggling with something behind my facial features. It's something else is there. And I know it's there, and it's obvious through the camera or the video that it's there. And it's odd. I mean, I'll have to, sometimes I can shake it off if they give me a little bit of time to go into another room or something to do a quick, ritual. But sometimes I have to, go home, and it'll take me that amount of time to just go do my own healing ceremony to get rid of it. And I don't like the feeling, of course, but how people can protect themselves, there are sprays that people can use. Four Thieves spray is really good for people to use if they want to do something like that on an investigation, or something like dragon's blood. If they want to put that on the back of their neck, they can get the dragon's blood oil. Some type of blessed rosary would be good, or even if you're an empath, wearing a hat seems to help. I wear a hat to a lot of investigations because we open up our crown chakras.
See, guys?
And so, hello? So that does help a lot, sometimes, to help us kind of keep our head from kind of contained and from getting attachments and stuff like that. So there are certain things you can do, but you really have to realize that we are going into a paranormal investigation for that very reason, to have experiences. And so a lot of people are going to be disappointed if they don't have experiences. And so sometimes some of the best things that you can do is to learn how to cleanse yourself after the fact. I guess that's what I would say to people as well, just like the guys were talking about. Have somebody who can watch your back and cleanse you after an investigation with stuff like holy water, prayers, that type of thing.
We only have about 2 minutes left here before we got to go to break. Derrick, I'm going to get you to quickly finish things up and close this out here before the break. Do you believe then that there should be some sort of key protection in trying to look for those signs and be very wary of those signs?
Yeah, it's always good to carry different types of medicines on you to protect you. Because there are some things that, like I carry my own medicine on me all the time to make sure I don't come to harm. And they are key protectors. Some people will overly protect themselves. They'll put a whole bunch of other medicines in their medicine bag, and then they say, "Oh, I'm not feeling nothing now. Nobody's bothering me. I can't make contact with anybody." Well, because you overly protected yourself. You got to understand one thing. Only certain types of protections are required. You don't have to carry a large amount of items on you. You don't have to tattoo a whole giant cross on your back to think that you'd be protected. But there are people like that. Myself, I have different varieties of stones and crystals, and I carry my rosary with me. But the reason why I carry my rosary with me is it's to help guide me to make contact with young ones.
And on that note, we're going to hop out for a break here, our final break of the night. 1 hour left with Chronicles of the Unknown and Amber Avalone coming up right after this.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Greetings and salutations, space travelers, from the Chronicles of the Unknown team.
What is Chronicles of the Unknown? I keep hearing about this thing.
It's a new paranormal reality TV show based right here in beautiful British Columbia, Canada. Follow our team as we uncover claims of activity on the Caribou Gold Rush Trail. You can also follow us here every third Monday, where 2 members of our team will be available to answer your questions. We'll give you some equipment updates and some of our experiences on the road, right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with the U4 Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
Have you checked out the SOR Spacewire at spacedoutradio.com yet? Every day we post the latest stories regarding the weird, strange, and completely unbelievable. From cryptid and UFO sightings to the conspiracy world, we tackle it all. Hi there, I'm Eric Markham, Spaced Out Radio's news director for the SOR Spacewire. And if you have a story, I want to hear it. Email me at news@spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Every month on Spaced Out Radio, we look into the deep and dark reports of cryptids roaming around the world with me, Rob Morphy from Cryptopia.us. I would love it if you would join me and host Dave Scott as we delve into the most arcane stories and reports regarding creatures of the unknown. My job is to hunt down the details and bring the evidence forward to you. These aren't your regular Bigfoot stories I'm talking about either. You can find out more about crypto history at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us on Spaced Out Radio? Head to spacedoutradio.com to check out the latest shows, guests, and sponsors. And don't forget to sign up for the Space Travelers Club. You'll find all you need at spacedoutradio.com. Welcome back for the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. It's a Paranormal Monday with Chronicles of the Unknown and Amber Avalone. Tomorrow night on the show, we're going to get into a real serious topic here. The missing men of Boston. They're just vanishing. It's happened a number of times over the years. Elise Soper will be back with us to tell us about what is happening with these men who are washing up dead. It's going to be interesting. as we get to a real serious mystery tomorrow night on the mighty SOR, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Thank you so much if you're listening in on the United Public Radio Network live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans. 20,000 plus of you tuning in right now from 160 countries around the world. We love having you with us. Thank you for making us part of your daytime, nighttime, morning time, wherever you are on this great planet we call Earth. If you're listening in on Revolution Radio, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Do us a favor, visit freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight. If you're an SOR Space Travelers Club member, you know what to do with it. Pertinaciously is your password. Pertinaciously. Make sure you use it properly and try and use it in a sentence as well. Thank you, Bill, for setting the password each and every night on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, I can be followed at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. While there, you could join the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You get a bunch of swag with that as well. You can also listen to some great music from our resident guitar god, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. Read up on the Space Wire. Check out my latest blog. And if you've had a weird experience you can't explain, do us a favor. Fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Mike Schmidt is waiting to get back to you. Tonight we are with the team from Chronicles of the Unknown, Glen Ferguson, Mike Morin, and Derrick Whiteskycloud, along with Amber Avalone from the Paranormal Healing Project way down there in New Mexico. Not Old Mexico, New Mexico. We welcome everyone back to the show. And we're going to get it fired up right off the bat. And Mike, we'll start with you on this one. Jim has a question. He is asking, has anyone of your group or any one of you, and Mike, this will pertain to you, right off the bat. Have you ever had to tell a resident of an active haunted house that they probably should just move?
First thing I'd like to say, since you have your radio station on in New Orleans, go Saints. Now I will answer that question. I have never told anyone to move. I've laid on the heavy of giving suggestions on how to cleanse the house. And I've also given a lot of suggestions on how to ensure activity fizzles out in the house, and as well guidance on how to work with what's going on in a house. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Ish?
Ish. Always an ish. Glenn, how about
Yes.
you? You've been doing this a long time. Have you ever told someone that's probably best they move?
No. They own the house. They're going to be kicked out with someone who's been there before. There's always a way to get rid of something. And if you don't know how to do it yourself, there's always somebody out there who knows how to do it. So, no. There's no way I'd tell someone to leave their house just because it's haunted.
How about you, Derrick?
No, I never told anybody to leave, but a lot of times too, it's the spirit or it's the ghost that actually try and tell them to leave. But never the person themselves who actually lives in the house. It may be the ghost that'll try and chase them out, try and get them to leave. But I've never have. I always tell them, if you don't like it, leave. No, I don't want to do that, because you're putting the care and love into your home, and you're trying everything you can to make it good and have a happy home. And mind you, if you do have your ups and downs with that particular ghost, you're just going to find out who that person is and why they don't want you there, and you're going to have a compromise. And most of the story is all to do with, if that ghost is trying to get you to leave, you're trying to find out why they want you to leave. And if they say it was once their home, well, then say, look, you passed away. You don't belong here anymore. This is not your place anymore. This is my home. And a lot of times they'll just finally will give up and leave. And if they are in respect of your family and they choose to stay, they should never have to harm you, because a lot of times people have dealt with compromising with the ghost, and the ghost will stay in the house and live there with the family. And most of the time, I've heard of stories, and I actually have witnessed stories where ghosts have actually become the guardians of the children. and decide to watch over them and making sure that everybody's safe. It's kind of cool. A lady friend of mine moved in this house with her family and kids, and this particular ghost was lived in that house before him, and it actually was the owner of the house who had passed away. And he apparently didn't like them at first because he was trying to say that it was his place. And so when I had a little talk with him and told him exactly what was going on, and he decided to compromise, and when we explained to him, like, look, this is a loving family, and they don't want to be, they don't hate you, they like you, they want to compromise with you and say, look, if you let them stay here, they would love to have you around. That's what made him feel good. And so every morning, the agreement was every morning when they get up to have a cup of coffee, that they have to pour a cup of coffee for him, and they'll leave it on the kitchen counter for him. And by the time a couple hours goes by, that cup is empty. So after that, it doesn't hurt to give to the spirits a food or something to drink, and that will help them a whole lot.
I hope the next time they put out a cup of coffee, they had a camera running.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll have to have Glenn on that one.
Amber, we'll give you the final word on this one.
Yes, I actually have told a family to move before, and part of the reason was because they were renters and they were living in Edgewood, New Mexico, and the home was really run down and the landlord wasn't working with them. I mean, they had mice in the house and they had mold, stuff like that. So it was a health hazard for their young children as well as for themselves, and they also had a lot of paranormal activity. And Edgewood itself, I don't know if you all have heard about it, but it is a really, really strange town, and the entire town of Edgewood has a lot of activity. It's not ghost activity per se. It's not demonic activity per se. It's something that's beyond all of that. And people in the metaphysical community know about it. A lot of people who live there know about it. Nobody can fix these things. I even had a guy who works at Sandia Labs here who does a lot of work for the government. And he's like, oh, yeah, I've heard about Edgewood. And I'm like, are you serious? You've heard about the activity in Edgewood? And so it's kind of a big deal, but it's kind of under the radar, which is strange. But nobody's able to really get it under control. I mean, I've been learning a lot more about it, but this was right at the beginning. And I did tell them for their safety as well as the safety of their kids that they should move because nobody knew how to deal with it. And they were going kind of crazy. And when you have a mother who is calling you saying, I feel like I want to kill my husband and my kids, and I think it's this home, and she's not willing to get any help from anybody, yeah, I'm going to tell her I think she should move.
Let's move on to another question here from the audience because they are packing them in tonight. Ron is asking, and Glenn, will start with you on this one. A television investigator from India died, and he's wondering if it was related to his involvement with the dark side. Because the gentlemen seem to be attracted to really dark entities. Could they kill you?
Yeah, if you're messing around with that kind of stuff. We tend to stay away from anything that's extremely negative. But then again, sometimes we don't really have an opportunity to gauge whether we stay or not. Generally, it attacks right away. Yeah, it can. It can definitely make a difference.
Derrick, what do you think?
Well, I know who the guy you're talking about. He was part of the TV series Haunted Australia. And they went into an insane asylum one time. And he would constantly get hurt. When he walked into that insane asylum, by the time the night was over, and then he did a few more places, next thing you know, he's actually in a wheelchair. He got hurt, and he was never the same after that. But he was the kind of guy that was trying to empower everybody in the group. Like pretty well most of the paranormal investigators in the group were scared of the spirits, and he was one that would not show fear. He actually went into the morgue himself, and he actually put the camera on himself, and he actually one of the guys put him inside the tray where the dead bodies are placed, and he stayed in that for an hour, and with the camera on himself. But he didn't care. But there was another paranormal investigator who I know personally had a fear of going into that drawer, so to speak. He did not want to go in there. It just freaked him right out, even though it was a medium, but he was so scared. So I guess at times there are people that are going to try their darndest to see if they overcome their fear when they go into these places. But every time I saw him on a show, he was always getting hurt. The South Asian fellow, always getting hurt, and I thought, okay, well, something's going to happen. Then when I heard that he passed away, I thought, oh man, there's got to be something went wrong that he got caught into that. So, and I never, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised because you're involved in the paranormal, someone's going to get hurt. And they challenged it. It was actually quite the show, quite the investigation. Yeah.
Amber, what do you think?
Well, I was just looking him up online as y'all were talking about it. So I'm kind of reading about him probably for the first time. I think I may have read a little bit about him before, but I don't know that much. Yeah, I mean, definitely something could have happened. I think it said on one site that I just looked at that he investigated more than 6,000 locations, or somebody said he investigated more than that. I don't know if that's true or not, but if so, that's a lot of investigations, and so that's exposing yourself to a lot of activity. And I know that one site had said that he didn't believe that there were negative entities, that sometimes they were just maybe frustrated or something like that. But and that he always tried to empower, I guess, the other people on his team. So it sounds like he had a really interesting approach to investigations, and that's sad that something like that would happen to him. Because it seems like he was really trying to take the paranormal shows in his country in a really neat direction. So it would have been nice to see where he was going to take his show. But people die from all sorts of curses or paranormal phenomenon. I mean, you know, people like us, Dave, even come under paranormal or psychic attack, not just from spirits or other entities, things like that, but from people who dabble or are very involved in the dark arts or covens or things like that. So it's not just the spirits on the other side that we have to be concerned about, but it's people who are living who, for one reason or another, want to come after us or see what they can do to people who are in the spotlight. And sometimes it's those types of things that can happen to people like this gentleman. So, yeah, it can happen.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to another question here. This one comes from Gloria, and Mike, we'll start with you. And she's asking, Mike, could a person walk through a cemetery with young children and cause a spirit to follow them home and cause depression later as the children grow older?
That's an interesting question. They, quote unquote, say that spirits are attracted to children a lot more because children can see and sense them more than adults when they're young. So do I think a child could get followed from a cemetery? Potentially. Do I think it can cause depression? All depends on the type of entity that is followed. For it to cause depression in someone, I would think that would be a spirit being attached to the child. Just walking through a cemetery? Yeah, maybe. It's a good question, though. So my answer is yes, it is possible.
Derrick, what's your thoughts?
I don't think so. I don't think a child would ever get actually attached in a cemetery too easily because there are so many people that are in the spirit world that are protecting these kids right now. The only way that a child could actually deal with depression later on is if they were playing with a Ouija board. If the parents got them one and it affected them after down the road, or they start playing with something that was not good, because a lot of times kids will start daring spirits on the other side. I dare you to see, I dare to see you, I dare to see you, and next thing you know, they get hurt. But other than that, I've always been taught that a child will always be protected and it should never come to any harm whatsoever, his or her harm, because they have not experienced fear or pain, different emotional things that they're starting to grow. So it depends on each individual.
Glenn, how important is it to be careful with children when they're involved around the paranormal?
Difficult question to answer for me because I grew up in the paranormal. My mother and grandmother were both mediums. I was around it daily. I don't think it really made any difference to how I grew up, other than a kind of a morbid curiosity to find out that what they believed in is actually true. But other than that, I don't really think it really makes much of a difference. And I also don't like the fact when you get a lot of parents who say, my child has an imaginary friend. To dismiss it as just being an imaginary friend is something I'm not comfortable with.
We just had that happen up here.
Yeah. How did that go?
Friends of ours, their son is best friends with my son. They're only a few months apart, and they're both 3 years old. Apparently, he was talking to a bad man in his room. And she was just like, wow, he has... I don't know if I got a ghost or just a child with an overactive imagination. I said, do you want me and Mrs. SOR to come over? Because I know what it is. Kids just don't make that stuff up. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, there's nothing here. You don't need to come over. Just total denial. It's just an overactive imagination. And too many times that happens, and it can be negative.
And that's where it tends to get a little bit frustrating in points. The child's really trying to say, hey, there's someone in my room, and no, just go back to bed, it'll go away. It's that typical monster in the closet type effect, or the monster under the bed. And it plays a harsh effect on the child. They start to suppress their own ability to the point where it's, okay, well, I'm just going to shut it off, because obviously no one believes what I'm saying anyway to begin with.
Amber, I'm bringing you in here on this one in regards to children. Amber, did you get abducted by aliens?
There we go. Sorry.
That's okay.
Problems with technology. And then that messed up what I was going to say. I got distracted. So I think that, I've kind of been thinking about the idea of children in this aspect because I do believe in reincarnation. And whether some children can be tormented by things that happened in a past life, whether they were involved in some type of maybe dark magic in a past life, and it's carried over into this life, and so it affects them as children. Because I've been reading about some different books on families who were affected by what they would call demonic encounters and entities, things like that, or even just maybe ghosts or whatever, and where it would seem to target just one family member who would get, scratched and their hair pulled, or just horrible, even more horrible things would happen to them. But it would target one person, and so I was trying to think of different ways why that would happen. And one of the things that I thought of, well, maybe potentially it could be because of something that person did in a past life that was a carryover into this life, and it needed to be cleansed in this life. And that was one of the things that I came up with, was that it could be something that they did in a past life, whether they got into dark magic or something like that. So I don't subscribe to the idea that children are completely innocent, because I don't believe that we only live one life. But I do believe that children can be very, very protected, as was said earlier, by spirit guides or guardian angels. So the ones that are protected can be completely protected from those ghosts or entities. But yeah, a child can walk through a graveyard and can get an attachment or something like that. There's always a possibility, especially ones that are very sensitive to this type of phenomenon. I mean, as adults it happens to us, so why not as children? And that's something that we need to start teaching our children to do, is to learn to control their gifts and at that age, so that they can they don't have to learn it at the ages that people like me had to start learning on my own when they grew into adulthood.
Next question comes from Galen. She is asking, and Derrick, we'll start off with you on this one. What's it like to use your own personal energy to push spirits out? Derrick? Are you there, Derrick?
Derrick messaged on Skype saying BRB.
Oh, okay. Well, Glenn, let's get to you on this one.
Sure, what was the question again?
What do you think? What's it like to use your own personal energy to push spirits out?
It's exhausting. It can knock you down for a bit. Not something I'd recommend. If you can get any energy sources from anywhere else, like we use EM pumps a lot on our investigations, which pretty much kicks out EM that they can generate, and they can use that energy rather than our energy. But yeah, it's a little draining, and it's generally lasting afterwards as well.
Michael, what do you think?
Well, I don't use my own energy to push spirits out per se. I think it's very healthy for, if we're doing an investigation in someone's home, for the homeowner to push the spirits out with their energy there, because their energy is in the house. So it's almost kind of like a smudge in a sense.
And Amber, I'll let you... Mike, you got to turn your sound down. Amber, I'll let you have the final word on that one. Do you believe that, that we can get things out and by using our own energy?
We can, but it's going to be extremely exhausting. So what I try to do, or what I do at this point is, I shouldn't have put it that way. Yeah, I know, as soon as I said that. So what I practice at this point is drawing in the energy through my crown chakra. So bringing in that light energy from above, and also are already having the energy of the, usually I'll call in the 4 directions, and also the energy from above, and then Mother Earth, and my spirit guides, or whomever I'm calling in for that particular session. And so using their help and all of their energy to push it out. And then that way, it's a very easy process, and I'm not as tired or exhausted because I am dealing with long-term illness myself because of my own paranormal sensitivities. And so I try to conserve as much energy as possible. And if I tried to do it on my own, I would not be doing this work at all. So that's the answer that I'm giving.
Amber, what about Himalayan salt lamps? Would you recommend them to help clear the air?
I do. I have a huge one under my desk right now, and I have another one over by my bed. So I recommend them. When I was working at a law firm, I had one on my desk right by my computer, and it completely changed the atmosphere. Every law firm that I worked at, I had it right by my computer, and it was amazing, the difference that it made. And people would come by my desk, and especially the sensitive people, and they would comment on, first of all, how beautiful it was, and then what a difference it made. And I actually bought one for a young girl who was in her 20s because she was also very sensitive. I mean, I could just tell. And she was having a very hard time at the law firm because it was extremely haunted, the one that we were working at. And she had a lot of paranormal activity in her workstation. And sometimes she would work there alone on the weekends, and she would get really scared. Like she started to bring either her boyfriend or her dog with her because she wouldn't go alone. So I brought her a salt lamp, and a Himalayan salt lamp. She loved it, and it transformed the entire energy of that space. And she commented on it, and it actually got rid of the creepy feeling of that entire area. And there was a woman who, well, I'll share this story too. There was a woman who contacted me, and she had moved into a home, and there had been sexual abuse in that home, and she wanted to know how to get rid of the energy from that space. And I recommended the Himalayan salt lamp. And so she bought one, and she put it in that space, and she contacted me back, and she said the transformation was unbelievable. And it was like a completely different home. So I have very many stories like that. From people who use it in their offices to their homes, and I would recommend it for everybody to have one.
I've got 2.
Yeah, as many as possible.
I think we got like 4 or 5 in the house.
Well, I got 10 in my house.
Yeah, right?
That's for one for each strand of hair you have.
Yeah.
Michael, are you a big salt lamp guy?
I'm a salt lamp guy. I only have one, though, not 26. Yeah, I have one. I have one in my bedroom.
Excellent. Let's move on here in regards to the questions, because I'm a big salt lamp fan as well, and I find, as someone who suffers from depression and anxiety, I find that they actually do calm me down, and I sleep better at night when they are on. Let's get to Ron's question. Oh, that was about the Himalayan salt lamps. Never mind that one. Sorry, Ron. Not trying to put you down there. Gloria has a question. and Derrick, we'll start with you on this one. Could a cleansing be done from a distance on a person, say like Reiki?
I don't do Reiki. From a distance? No. I mean, you could do prayers with intention. You can try to send healing energy to people, but I strongly feel that you have to be close up to the person because you're spending the time with them. My training is a little different, and we can always send prayers and love, and you can remote view someone's place and see how they're doing, but I still feel the person has to be close by. They can spend the time with them and do healing work, unless somebody else thinks they can do something, as far as I know.
Mike, what's your thoughts? This is where you turn your microphone on, Mike.
It is. Sorry, can you please repeat the question?
In regards to cleansing, do you believe it could be done from a distance like Reiki?
I don't know. Maybe. I think anything's possible. I know there are groups that do like remote investigations, like Eric's group. So maybe they can do cleansing that way. I don't know. I don't think so. I think you have to do a cleansing at the location where you are investigating or where a cleansing is needed. I think it needs to be hands-on.
How about you, Glenn?
Yeah, I think it needs to be a physical act, basically, a ritual performed or a ceremony performed. It's not the kind of thing you could actually just talk over the phone about or put it through loudspeakers on the other end or turn on your speaker. That's not going to help because the person who's actually on the other end of the phone needs your help. So it has to be physical.
Amber, are you going to stick with the team or are you going to go off on your own in this one?
No, you know me. Yeah. Well, I would say that you definitely can do cleansings, remote cleansings. And it really, I think that different people have different gifts. And so it's probably a matter of what particular spiritual gift that person has and what spirit guides are working with them probably as well. I tend to, because of my condition, I have had to work more on, I don't want to say perfecting, but improving my remote healing work. And so that's why I've done a lot more of the remote healing. And I will actually go into spontaneous remote healings. So I'll be doing healings on myself, whether it's Reiki healings or something else. And Spirit will have me do a spontaneous remote healing on somebody else or on another part of the world. And so I think that it's great, but it's always really nice to also have an in-person healing session or saging or cleansing. They each have their benefits. And it's wonderful to be able to go through a home and to burn the frankincense. When I burn a mixture of the frankincense and the myrrh and the sage and the cedar and all of these amazing herbs that really do make a difference, and to say the prayers and that type of thing. But I'll better be able to answer that question probably in a few months because I am going to start taking a course, and one of the things that she's going to teach is remote locational cleansings. So I'll see how it works because I'm supposed to do some remote locational cleansings through her course using mudras and mantras.
I do have to give one of our listeners a little bit of crap here for a second. Aussie Rob goes and puts a picture of a blueberry cheesecake that's sitting in his fridge right now, and I'm hungry as anything. And there's nothing more. There's nothing more right now that I would like than fresh homemade blueberry cheesecake. So, Rob, you know, that's a very, very vicious photo. I'm sure everybody in the chat rooms would like a piece of that cheesecake right now. And you're not sharing. And worst part about it is you're way over in Australia, so you can't even ship it here. You know, very cruel, Rob. Very, very cruel. Anyways.
Cheesecake's my favorite.
Oh, I know.
Blueberry.
I know. How do you go wrong with a good cheesecake? You just don't. You know?
That was a cheesy issue that he did.
Oh, I agree. I think even Glennard may like cheesecake. I'm not too sure.
Yes, I would. Do you have any?
I don't, but apparently Robert has some blueberry cheesecake going on.
I'm seeing that. I'm looking in the chat room right now.
Yeah. You know, we're definitely going to have words, Robert and myself, about posting cheesecake in the chat room, you know, because, you know, I don't know, man. My mouth is frothing right now. Just frothing. Anyhow, let's move on. Another question here. This one comes from Ron, a good Canadian kid from Saskatchewan. He is asking, follow up to the death question. Do cultural heritage beliefs affect the way the spirits interact with us? Derrick, you're Métis. I want to start with you on this one.
Well, my mom's from Saskabush. That young man. So, yeah, my mom's from that territory. I forgot the question.
I don't know. I'm still on the cheesecake. I'm a little pissed off about the cheesecake.
At the cheesecake, like, what the hell?
Mm-hmm.
No. I've got Bannock at home. I got Bannock in my fridge right now. I can pull some Bannock out.
It's not blueberry cheesecake.
No, I got Bannock right now. A friend of mine made some Bannock for me, so...
Well, getting back to Ron's question, because I'm getting hungry here. I'm not going to lie. I'm getting hungry here. Does cultural heritage belief or tradition affect the way spirits interact with us?
Yeah, to a point it does, because certain people have certain beliefs about, you know, like certain religious issues. I mean, that's kind of a touchy-feely thing, you know, when you start bringing in religion, so to speak, or thoughts of you know, what's right and what's wrong. Because people you get really technical. You can go into the Bible, for example, and then the new version of it says, beware of the psychic, you know, and yet the original Bible itself does not say beware of the psychic. It means beware of the soul seer. And the soothsayer, the soothsayer means one who actually manipulates people, money out of people that relates to property and value, but it had nothing to do with psychics or astrologers. It's all to do with manipulate money out of property because it was a gambling issue. But at times, society has a way of changing us and making us believe that we have to go one way or the other. There are some religions that believe that we are evil, and some religions believe that we are important. So it depends on each individual. But in my culture, the way I was raised, First Nations people and Métis and Inuits have most of them have always believed in the spirits because that's how they've always felt. But they also believe that, you know, that people can send them bad medicine. But as well, if they're feeling that something's not right, they'll call it bad medicine, and they'll feel it. They know, because our people know how to work with medicines and what's good stuff and what's bad stuff. So it depends on each individual, you know. Myself, everyone has a belief system. Whatever you feel you're guided to do, I've never questioned God theory, so to speak, or the spirit world, because I was immersed in it when I was 8 years old. And but I took on some of the challenges of it because I was never immersed into the religion sense of it. I was pushed into it because I went to residential school for a short, brief time. But I challenged it. I wanted to find out certain things if were true or not. And when I did challenge it, it was a lesson for me to learn, not to hate, but to question. And that's one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to question it. I wanted to find out how these things really do, how they work. And it depends on each individual. And so my heart is where I go. And I've always believed that Creator is always watching over us constantly. And if we do feel that there's something wrong that happens to us, we have to learn it as a lesson. You know, it's not always saying, well, you know, someone gave me bad medicine or black magic. You know, we are learning this as a lesson to overcome our challenges in life. And so that's just the way, that's how things work. As far as that's what I do.
Mike, do you find that dealing with, say, different types of spirits, whether they're Chinese, First Nation, African American, Russian, Irish, do you find them to be different? And I think Mike forgot to turn his microphone on again.
More than likely.
I absolutely did forget to turn my microphone on, and I was talking for about 15 seconds before realizing it, so now I got to remember what I was saying. I was saying, I was agreeing, yes, it does, because I'll give an example. We investigated a heritage site where it was a Tong building, which is a Chinese... Glenn, how would you define the Tong?
Pre-forefathers of the triads, basically, the kind of Freemasons of the Chinese world.
Exactly, and we were in the Tong building, and one of our investigators, he didn't mean anything by it, but he said, we went into like the more private area of the old Tong building, and he said, "You people," and within minutes of him saying that, he got scratched. So yeah, I do think they're. Yes, it would be my answer to that. Do you remember that, Glenn?
Yeah, also with the demonstration building at the Cornell Folks place, we had some issues upstairs there as well.
How about you, Amber? What do you think in regards to this?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. I would have loved to have had a broader experience, more like maybe Derrick had when he was growing up. I grew up more with the Christian background, and I'm really glad for that because I had that foundation and then was able to move on from that. But because Christianity is such a big part of American culture, I can still speak to a lot of people from their perspective and then kind of relate things back to that, which is really important when we talk about paranormal issues. But I do like what he said about Creator is always watching over us, and it's a lesson. And it's so true about a lot of our experiences are some type of spiritual lesson. And yeah, I'm sure I had something else to add, but that's probably the best of what I'll say on that subject right now.
Well, Amber, part of that too, like you said, you follow a Christian belief system, but with me, I had to do a Bible study class, and there they were using pictures, showing us kids, like, you know, a specific person, this and that. And for some reason, I opened my mouth and I said, "No, it never happened." And they went, "What?" They gave me that stern look, and I said, "No, it never happened." Certain event that they said they're trying to tell us kids, and then I said, "No, it never happened." And I went, "Oh!" I touched my hand and my mouth, And I realized after it was someone who was in spirit telling me what really did happen in that Bible, and I challenged it. And here is a 13-year-old challenging the priest that it didn't happen, certain event in that time period. So they took me out and locked me up in a room for 2 hours. Told me that I had to learn my lesson by having to say, So, but did I do something wrong? No. I asked them why they put me in there, and they said because you were bad. Bad about what? Speaking up for yourself? No, I listened to what I felt was right. You see? So I'm hearing them telling me, and it's funny when you, I'm sure all of us have always had a challenge of a teacher sometime in our life, that a teacher would get you to believe something and you realize after the teacher's not telling the truth, or you have to change, and you say, no, that's not right. And then you're correcting them and they hate being corrected.
Yes. Right?
And that's exactly what I did. I corrected them at 13 years old. And they knew I was right by some means, but they're believing what that Bible is telling them.
Yes, that's very true. I mean, because it can be a very difficult, wow, now we're getting into, I don't know if we want to get into religion on this show.
I can take you there, but I
know, me too.
The whole story.
I don't know if our listeners want to go there, but yeah, and
I'm not against Christianity. I don't mind it at all. It's just there was a certain event that took place in the Bible. They're trying to tell me what took place, and I said no, it didn't happen. And I can pretty well quote what it is, but I'm not going to. It's too long of a story to talk about. But I just basically turned around and said no, that didn't happen, and I just said this is what happened, and they got really upset, and then they looked at me like, how do you know? And then I just basically said, because they told me this is what happened here. They got really upset, and that's why they grabbed me and threw me in the room. So there was I didn't get expelled, because in this particular school, you don't get expelled. You're beaten senseless, so to speak, or locked up. So they're trying to convince me, and I refuse to listen. I refuse to hear something that's not true. That's why we have intuition.
Exactly.
Right?
I would love to hear that story after the show.
Sure.
If you want to tell it.
Yeah, no problem.
Derrick also has a really nice mustache, too.
Yes.
That's important.
That's another reason I want to hear the story.
Yes. Well, Derrick's hair and mustache are important. Seriously, he rocks it. He rocks it well.
Yeah, I carry my mustache well, I guess.
Well, you do. You do.
It's hard to keep my spoons clean.
We only got about 5 minutes left. This show has flown by, everyone. It really, really has. And I know we say that often on this show, but literally I just looked at the time and I'm like, wow, really? So let's end like this, because we started off on paranormal charity. And, this is the Chronicles of the Unknown. So when are you guys going to get back to filming? We got to get some more episodes out there.
We have 9 done. We've just put one more and we're done with the first season, which is kind of cool.
We have a meeting Thursday.
Yeah, we do. We took a little downtime. This, like I say, it does kind of affect your health in certain ways. And too much exposure, you just have to back off a little bit every now and again. And even with us, we backed off for a couple of months just to recharge and get back to normal.
The boys kept taking their clothes off in front of me all too often, so that's too much exposure.
Yeah, definitely way too much exposure to Derrick Whiteskycloud. Thanks.
Yeah.
I don't know. Between Derrick and Mike snoring, it's hard to sleep.
Between Mike and Troy. Holy!
I didn't hear him.
Well, it'll be good to finally get some fresh tape, and I know you got a couple of good ideas on what you want to do, including a flight crash back in the 60s in my area up here.
Yeah, Flight 21.
That'll be fun. Amber, you got to get up here. Get a part of this.
Yeah. Well, so because I do live in the southern United States, and I just kind of joined y'all here, I do want to ask.
Y'all?
So, y'all.
Love it.
Yeah.
You have to. I'd love for you to tell me where do these shows air? Is it on YouTube or is it on Canadian TV, or how can I watch you?
It's so Canadian that it can't be viewed in America because Mike doesn't have a passport.
And so it's like a secret channel, Canadian
Do you know
channel.
that our TV sets are not the same as the American TV sets?
Yeah, I was just covered in about 4 to 5 foot of snow.
Yeah.
And there's
Wow.
moose droppings all around it.
See, one thing about
That's-
living in Canada, at the border, you've got polar bears as your security animals, and we live in
true.
live in igloos, and we
It's
travel.
so true.
All we use is canoes.
It's so true. It's so true.
We're just wrapping up production, and we're going to be. You'll know when we're on TV because it's going to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so-
still in the final stages of post-production, basically.
So basically what it is, Amber, is up here in Canada, there is no paranormal television show. Anything that you see that's paranormal is brought in by a simulcast out of an American channel. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to, right now it's in pilot form, and they're in the process of getting actual Canadian content on the air, that these stories are happening in Canada, because for a lot of people out there, they believe, but the whole paranormal subject, whether it's ghosts, whether it's UFOs, Bigfoot, it's still quite taboo up here for some reason, even though everyone believes it. Yeah, it's a subject that everybody wants to chat about, but no one does.
They're about 10 years behind everybody else.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And the best part about it is there's still so many places, especially up north, the more northern you go, that have never been investigated. It's like virgin paranormal territory.
Wow.
Every location we shot at was virgin territory, and the point of it being like that.
When Mike gets out of the truck, all he sees is nothing but virgins.
Insert awkward silence.
Mm-hmm. End quotes. Yeah.
Because Mike is... That's why.
That's cool. Well, that'll be great. I'm excited for you all.
She said it's cool because she agrees with you, Mike.
The show will be fantastic.
I think that's wonderful.
Amber needs a road trip. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
Amber needs a road trip
first.
Amber, you got to get up here, and we'll take you around the town. We'll be your show first, and we'll show you BC.
I would love that. I would definitely be up for that.
We are called the Canadian Californians up in the BC area. Very little
Canadian
snow.
Californians.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
You know how you can tell a Canadian from an American in the snow?
You're going to tell me.
Yeah, we wear parkas, sandals, and shoes. Sandals and
That's
shorts.
awesome.
Always wearing
parka.
shorts.
Yeah, shorts and sandals and a parka. And that's you can tell.
Americans don't know what a parka is, my friend.
A winter coat.
It's a furry coat.
Furry coat. We're getting real Canadian here. Let's just go. Let's call it a night. Let's get over to the Chesterfield and hang on out.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, eh? All right. Everybody in the panel, you hold on for a moment, because I'm going to wrap this thing up. If you're listening on the Space Out Radio side, Derek, mute your mic for a second, if you don't mind. If you're on the Space Out Radio side, you are listening to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, formerly of Guns N' Roses. He is the official sound of Spaced Out Radio, brings us in and takes us out of every episode, every single night. We love Mr. B around here. Anytime you get to rock with a legend, Like the guitar god, it's a good night. Tomorrow night on the show, Elise Soper will be with us. We're going to get into a real surreal topic. Boston's vanishing men. What's happening to them? Why are they washing up in the rivers dead? Real serious topic tomorrow night. Something different for us. We've never done a topic like that before, but we're going to get into it. Remember, if you want to hear our archives, you go to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, tune us in on TuneIn, or you can download this show or others on iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. Make sure you visit there. We got a lot of cool things and more coming for you, including the Ask Amber Paranormal column very, very soon. In fact, I know it's being worked on right now. Well, not this second. People are sleeping. But it's being worked on. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're a brand new listener, thank you for giving us your time. If you're on United Public Radio Network live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 160 countries around the world, thank you for inviting us into your home, your car, wherever you may be. Revolution Radio, you guys rocked it tonight. And of course, my chat room followers. Can't do this without you. We'll talk to you in exactly 21 hours from now. Have a good one, everyone. See you tomorrow night.